Hello ladies and gentlemen, the Fuzz is here, and it's time for the second list, the top 5 best cards of each aspect, according to my very humble opinion indeed. Now, the criteria I had for picking these cards were mostly overall general usefulness as opposed to just power level. Because I think a more useful card is better than a more powerful card. So that's why you might see something like Fireball would be rated higher than Red the Dragon, even if Red Dragon is really powerful, but Fireball is just more useful to have. Yeah, spoilers, Fireball is on the list, but it's not really a surprise, is it? Everybody knows Fireball is one of the best cards in the game. So anyways, without further ado, we're going to start things off with order. And the card I chose for number 5, oh, let me just cut out the other stuff. We've got Ray of Righteousness. Number 5 best order card. It's one of the only removal cards order has, and it does the job pretty reasonably well. Takes care of most of the really dangerous cards. Its only real downside is that it costs 3 mana, which is a little bit much, but that's the best order is gonna get. So that's why it is on the list, because it's one of the only ways to get rid of big threats. I guess you have Pacify, but Pacify they have to actually attack. Number 4, we've got Antriel, Patron of the Sunblessed, the big badass angel. Why is it only number 4, you might think? Well, it's because while she is, a really big creature and a kind of a big threat, she's a bit slow. And compare playing something like her on the board to something like a dragon. Well, the dragon is much more dangerous. Antriel is a good card, but not that threatening. That said, as long as she's on the board, winning the game is very difficult. It's just that she doesn't put nearly as much pressure on you as some of the other really big cards. Number 3, Cavalry Field Captain. A really underplayed creature, I think, and it's very strong. +1 attack, health, and speed is a really great buff, and it's a really great way to take control of the board because it lets smaller creatures kill larger creatures. And it's just a good body. 3 speed, 2 attack, 2 health. Yeah, that's pretty good. The ability to retreat means it can kind of protect itself from attacks. Just solid card overall. I think it just kind of struggles to find the right kind of deck. But I imagine that the captain has not seen his last battle. Not by a long shot. Number 2, we've got Instill Life. One of my favorite cards in the game. Instill Life is basically bring any 2 creatures you want back from the graveyard. Now, yes, it's only cost 2 or less, but there are a lot of really great 2-costing cards in this game, such as Ramgak, Ancient Treant, Fae of Charm, Cavalry Field Captain, Mesmerizing Spirit, Necromantic Cult. All of those are really good cards, and you can bring back any 2 of them. So, yeah, really good. What really clinches it for this card is the only 1 order requirement, which makes it easy to splash. That's really great. That card was actually the basis for my Hermelian deck, and I think this card can only get better with the new cards that come out. And the number 1 best order card, to absolutely nobody's surprise, Guardian of the Faithful. Easily the best order card in the game. Just a ridiculous creature, great stats, flying, a sick effect. Yes, she was slightly nerfed recently, but that's still a very slight nerf. Basically, if you play her, it's like, you can't die this turn. Because if your opponent attacks you with everything, he just loses everything. He has to sack 3 creatures first to get rid of her. So that's a 3-for-1 right there. And it's not even an exhausting ability, so she can just attack anything she wants, and your opponent is eventually going to have to do something about her. 4 health is not that easy to remove. Just an insane creature. I imagine if she was in any other aspect, she would be played in every deck, because, my goodness, one of the best creatures in the game by far. Now we move on to Wisdom. Wisdom was kind of hard to choose. Really, in fact, all of these aspects except for order, picking top 5 was really difficult because there were at least like 8 or 9 really good cards. So if in any of these aspects there's a card I didn't name that you think is really good, it's probably because it was like number 6 or number 7 for me, and I just had to cut it because I had to cut something. So anyways, number 5, I put Flash Freeze, very convenient removal. Takes care of 1 health shenanigans, but also can help you remove really big threats. Just a very solid card overall. Number 4, we've got Gnome Power Engineer. The ability to destroy spells and artifacts is really, really valuable. So he sees play in most Wisdom decks. The energy giving effect is pretty nice too. It's a nice flavor. Not much more to say. If you're running Wisdom, you're probably running this guy too. Number 3, if I can find him. There we go. Force Mage Protector. A card that's been seeing play everywhere. Just because the shield is a really, really strong ability. He can shield himself if he needs to, but he can just shield bigger things and just give you good trades. And just having shields on the board makes life much more difficult for your opponent. A very solid creature overall. Number 2, we've got the Library Guards. There's another Wisdom creature that's seeing play basically everywhere. And it's easy to see why. Pretty decent body, you know, 3 speed, that's nice. And the card draw means it's never bad to play. It's just never bad. There's not much more to say. If you're playing Wisdom, you're going to play this card because it's just solid. And the number 1 Wisdom card, in my opinion, is the Lamp of Zafir. It's been nerfed twice now, and it's still pretty good. The ability to get a very strong creature that can attack and defend and is immune to most removal. It's a very valuable card indeed. Now, it is 2 Wisdom, so it's a little bit less flexible than something like Library Guards. But if you're looking for, you know, a value card and you're going into 2 Wisdom at any time, Lamp of Zafir should be an immediate choice. One of my favorite cards too. And to think it used to cost 2 mana to play. Oh my goodness, it was insane. And it's still pretty good. Moving on to Nature, we've got at number 5, one of my favorite cards, Mr. Ancient Treant. Yes, he's really slow, but he's one of the very few 1-speed creatures that's actually really good. And this is because A, his fairly large body, but more importantly, his excellent effect of locking down big threats makes the Treant just a good creature to have. In any game, if you can get a few of these on the board, it becomes impossible to deal with. And it's a target for Instill Life. Yeah, that's really cool. It's just a good card overall. Works really, really, really well with basic Neva. 5 mana, Treant, Swift. Good times. Good times for days. Number 4, we've got Fae of Charm, Treant's best friend. Basically good for the same reasons Treant is. Target for Instill, searchable via Call of July, I forgot to mention that. And very dangerous effect, which makes it easy to suddenly do a lot of damage to your opponent very quickly. And multiple of these stack. And basically, if your opponent has a few Faes of Charm, it's pretty much impossible to win, unless you remove them. Really good card. Number 3 is one of my favorite cards, which sees a little bit less play than I would like. But, oh well. And it is, why can't I find it for some ungodly reason? There it is, Word of Vigor. One of the best word cards, along with Word of Fire. Just the permanent boost on a creature is really good, often helps you get a good trade, and with nature creatures tend to have 3 speed, so putting it on an elf warrior makes it 3/3, you can kill most any early game, and you draw a card, so it's incredible value. If you can get it with 2 nature aspects, it's just ridiculous value. One of my favorite cards overall. Number 2, Haldiri Rider. Interestingly, I used to think this card was bad. I used to think it would cost too much mana, before realizing that being able to attack, you know, as soon as you play it, and the 3/3 body is actually very valuable, because the Haldiri Rider almost always finds a kill when you play it. Can kill Library Guards, can kill most things, and it's just a really good card. It's an elf, which helps a little bit. Really good to have in almost all times. Number 1, best nature card in my opinion, is the Venerated Unicorn. Basically an auto-include in every nature deck. But wait, why is this at number 1 while Gnome Power Engineer was only at number 4? Well, it's because the Unicorn has a much better body. It's a 3-speed creature with 2 health and 2 attack, but more importantly, it is searchable via Call of July. It's just... It's literally in every nature deck. Some nature decks even run 4 of it. It's that good. And it's a target for Instill Life. Well, technically so is Gnome Power Engineer, but that almost never happens. Great card overall. Moving on to Rage. And this one was, I think, the hardest to pick. Number 5, we've got Red Dragon. Wait a minute, wasn't Antriel number 4? And I said that Red Dragon was better? Yes. Well, that's because Rage's cards are, well, they're all really, 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 really good. Whereas in order, there were a lot less good cards. I had to include Mr. Red Dragon because it's such a threatening card. Basically, if your opponent plays a Red Dragon and you don't remove it, like, immediately, you pretty much lose the game, unless you're already overwhelmingly winning. Just an insane card. A free Dragon Fire every turn, and a huge flying body makes this one of the best creatures in the game overall. The only reason he isn't higher up is because he is a little bit slow. And if you just play him with 4 mana and 4 aspects, it's actually not that crushing. It's still pretty good, because you can only Dragon Fire once, but then you can't do anything else. But it's still really good. It deserves its spot in the top 5 for sure. Number 4, Fire Blast. Very popular removal card, because it's one of the very few area of effect abilities in the game. The 1 damage means it cleans up goblins pretty nicely, and it means that if you have 2 of these, you can clean up pretty much an entire board of just about anything. It's like a Cataclysm, effectively. Really solid card to have. Number 3, Fireball. Not much more to say about this. 3 damage for 2 mana is excellent, and it can hit face, and it's instant. It's just a great card. Number 2, Word of Fire. Again, it's removal that draws you a card. How much better can it get than that? It's really good. It scales with your aspects. It actually makes mono red a threat, because playing this with 3 aspects makes it a fireball that draws a card, which is insane. And you can go to 4 aspects even, and you can kill a Karthus and draw a card. Yeah, it's an insane card. And number 1, the best Rage card is, of course, the Mescation Phoenix, which is one of the most value cards in the game. 3/3 flying with 3 speed is already really good, and the fact that it does that a second time makes this just pound for pound probably the most valuable creature in the game. It's insane. It's basically in everything that every Rage deck, and rightfully so. If only it cost 2 mana and you could instill it, right? That would be ridiculously stupid. This card actually has even more potential because of the fact that you can abuse it by adding more energy to it, allowing it to resurrect itself multiple times. It's just that at the moment, we don't really have any great way to do this. There isn't any way to add 3 energy to a card outside of Force Wielder, but that's a little bit niche. But if there was like 1 card, add 3 energy to something, draw a card, that would be great with Phoenix. Basically, just keep recovering the Phoenix. And the Phoenix never dies. Yay. Moving on to Dominion. In Dominion, number 5, we've got Assassinate. Just pretty good removal. Similar to Fireball, but worse than Fireball because A, it doesn't actually hit face. Oh my god. What? But I was active. Whatever. It doesn't hit face, and it kills fewer things than Fireball does. And Fireball can actually take care of Lamp of Zephyr as well, so it's a good removal. It's just worse than Fireball. Moving on, coming in at number 4, we've got Cathedral of the Night, one of the best skill shrines in the game. It's repeated small removal and life gain. Pretty good, even though it costs 3 mana now. If it costs 2 mana, I'll probably put it higher up on the list, but it is a little slow. But if you're playing a control deck, it's pretty good. So it's gotta be on the list. Number 3, Bloodwell Matriarch. Very, very strong value card. You play it, and you can immediately play a spell. Most aspects have some 2-costing spell that you can use immediately. Fireball is great. Ancient Wisdom. Splitting Headaches. All of these things are great. You can even play like a word card just to draw cards, if nothing else. And she can even later play things like Overwhelming Forces if she stays on the board long enough. Just a really, really dangerous card to have. She seems to slide in and out, but I imagine a Matriarch will always be a presence in the meta, no matter what. Moving on at number 2, we've got Helm of Dominion. Just one of the best ways to just get rid of threats. You just take it. You just take it from your opponent. This card's only real weakness is that spell removal and artifact removal is pretty common, so it often gets hit by those things. So usually you want to take something that you can use it immediately. Taking a red dragon and using it to kill itself, that's pretty funny actually. Or just removing a creature so you can attack for lethal, or something like that. Or just hoping your opponent doesn't destroy this. But in any case, it's just a great card. And number 1, this should be pretty obvious, Lord Karthus, Death Speaker. Even after the nerf, he's still amazing. Instant removal, large body, and life gain. What more could you ask for from a card? Just insane. Moving on to Corruption. Coming in at number 5, we've got Consume Spirit. Very strong removal card. It's what makes Mono Corruption possible, because it basically is a big removal with a big power boost to your own creature. Even if it's just 2 aspects, it's basically Noxious Fumes with an extra power boost, which lets you frequently get 2 for 1. Really solid card overall. Number 4, we've got Mesmerizing Spirit. Very commonly played. While the body is not very strong, the instant discard is just really annoying to deal with. Basically, she guarantees value because your opponent lost the card right away and then he's got to spend the card to kill it. Playing several of these is extremely annoying. She's better played if your opponent has fewer cards because it cuts their options much more. And with just mass discard, she can be really strong. And you can revive her with Instill Life. How about that? Just pretty good. Just a value creature, not much more. Number 3, Noxious Fumes. Just insanely good removal for just 1 mana. It takes care of a whole lot of things. And even you can use it to just weaken a big creature and then finish it off. It's higher than Consume because it costs 1 mana. And costing 1 mana instead of 2 mana, it's a big deal. Basically, pretty much auto-include in every Corruption deck, I would say. Just like Fireball is for Rage. Number 2, Necromantic Cult. What an awesome card. Basically, you just put it on the board and something like 3 turns later, he just clears the entire board. Pretty good. Good synergy with Corruption overall. 3/3 means it's a big enough body to not immediately die, even though he does get fireballed. Has good synergy with things like Plague Vermin. You can just kill something and then immediately power him up. What makes him so dangerous is the fact that he only costs 2 mana, and so it's easier to play him for 2 and then have more mana left over to maybe add counters to him. Really strong card. And the number 1, and this was really close between it and the Cult, really close, is the Flesh Sculptor. I think it's my favorite Corruption card. Basically, if you play this, your board becomes unremovable. If you have 2 of these, your board literally cannot be removed, because then it'll just grow larger. I've played so many games where I've had 2 Sculptors, my opponent played Cataclysm, and then I had more creatures than I started with. Yes, it's ridiculous. Even 1 Sculptor synergizes insanely well with Plague Vermin, with Necromantic Cult. 2 Sculptors becomes ridiculous. Also, Zombie Survivor. If a Zombie Survivor dies, you get 2 Zombie Legionnaires. Pretty awesome card. So that is it for that list. I have decided to order them from best to worst with the the best of each aspect. And what I've come up with is the following. The number 6, the number 6 best card of all is, I put the Sculptor because it is more specific than the others on the list. It does require more of an interaction with your own board. It's pretty much useless by itself, but it's still good. But that's why it was number 6. Number 5, I put Lamp. I'm not gonna actually jump to these because actually I could. Here, number 5 is Lamp. It's a much more self-sufficient card, but it is just not quite as powerful or as versatile as the others higher up on the list. Number 4, I put the Unicorn because it's just such an all-purpose card, but the top 3 cards are just so strong in terms of just value that I couldn't put it any higher. At number 3, I put the Phoenix. Just a great value card. You put it on the board and it's gonna stick. That's for sure. Number 2 goes to the Guardian. One of the most ridiculous creatures in the game. And number 1, Karthus the Game Breaker. He's still the king, baby. What can I say? Any creature that can instantly kill another creature as its battle cry has to be number 1. Unless its stats were trash. But Karthus' stats are not trash. They are in fact pretty decent. And he has an additional effect. Basically, it's never bad to play Karthus. Never bad. So, that's it for my list. Let me know what you think. What cards you think are the best. Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.